Hi, this is Dr. Sana Hashmi, and this week in my Print Eye on China column, I analyzed what Chinese have been saying about India's military preparedness, but more specifically about Operation Sindoor. As in, I don't think that anyone has any doubt with respect to what is Chinese discourse has been and where is Chinese leaning is towards. It's definitely towards Pakistan. But then when we specifically talk about Chinese social media, Chinese strategic circle, Pakistan is definitely winning. Operation Sindoor perhaps may be unfolding just on the ground, but its battle of narratives is already raging online. And when it comes to Chinese online discourse, Pakistan is a winner. And on Weibo, the Chinese microblogging website, a hashtag claiming Pakistan shot down six Indian jets racked up over 90 million views within hours, within just a few hours, actually. And there are a number of Chinese media outlets that joined in with many punchy headlines like Pakistan shot down six Indian aircraft, including three Rafales, and Pakistan's victory in the first battle. As in, these are the headlines that were very common, and in fact, this is something that now it's being amplified on Chinese social media. And Chinese media platforms are now amplifying fake news from Pakistani side, and it is simply just showing what is Pakistan's narrative is. And I think it is just disinformation. It is just fake news that what we are seeing in Mandarin. Um, and there is nothing about the victims of the Pahalgam terror attacks, no solidarity with India whatsoever. And what I've just come across, specifically since the Pahalgam terror attack, is just support for Pakistan on the Chinese internet. There's not even a single commentary that is talking about how there have been innocent lives that have been claimed, and uh, there is state sponsored terrorism, and India has been a victim of it. There is nothing about it at all on Chinese platforms. And I don't think that this is about just about headline grabbing. This isn't just about taking the side of Pakistan. I think it reflects a bigger shift in how China views Pakistan and how it wants other to view India as well. So I think whatever I have seen till now, I would say that it is more about how China has picked its side, and this is the side of Pakistan. And if we go by what Chinese narrative has been, what Chinese have been talking about, Pakistan, that was once seen as fragile, as a weaker state, is now being portrayed as India's equal, militarily capable and ready for escalation. And the tone in Chinese commentary has changed sharply since the Pahalgam terror attacks. As in, if I look at it, I would just say that there is this ongoing online battle that is going on the Chinese internet on the behalf of Pakistan, actually. And with Chinese made weapons like PL-10 missiles and JF-17 jets in the spotlight, Beijing is treating this not just as a regional crisis. And then, in fact, if you look at the English media, if you look at what the Chinese embassy officials in India have been talking about, their tweets, we would realize that, they're talking about peace. But if we go and look at what the Mandarin platforms in Mandarin and the Chinese social media and other media platforms are talking about, I think it's just a chance perhaps for them to showcase its own military tech and then solidarity with Pakistan. This is totally different from what we are seeing on the English media platforms. And Chinese scholars such as Lung Xingchong, Liu Chongyi, they are prominent scholars who have been commenting on South Asia, have been commenting on India and Pakistan. They have been routinely casting India as the troublemaker, and Pakistan is just acting up for its defense. Pakistan is a defensive party here. And this is just not about Pahalgam attacks. I think this is a coordinated commentary that we have been seeing from a very, very long time from Chinese strategic community. And if I may quote one of the scholars whose quote I read on Operation Sindoor today in the morning, Lin Minwang, who is a senior academic at Fudan University in Shanghai, he even actually called Operation Sindoor inevitable, blaming Modi's aggressive rhetoric. And he actually downplayed any Pakistani role in the attack. And he actually suggested instead that a local Kashmiri militant group may be behind it, and then it is just a response to domestic situation and perhaps the abrogation of Article 370 that happened a long time ago. And this has nothing to do with Pakistan. So the kind of whitewashing that is happening in Chinese strategic community is something that we also have to pay attention to. So I think, if you look at Chinese discourse, perhaps we might also ask this question: are we really seeing a new Pakistan? Because this is a totally different narrative, that's a totally different perspective that we are seeing. And I think this is totally in contrast to what reality is actually. But at least from Chinese perspective, there is a new Pakistan. And I would say that it's a new Pakistan, perhaps with more and more Chinese assistance and more Chinese weapons. And I think from Chinese perspective, this is more about showing support, solidarity for their all weather friendship, and also a projection of something that does not exist, a stronger Pakistan and India as an aggressor. And then on platforms such as WeChat and Weibo, hashtags such as India opens fire on Pakistan without provocation fuel the idea that Pakistan is modernizing, just not surviving, and that is India that is an aggressor, it is India that is showing aggression, and Pakistan as just being a responsible stakeholder. And in fact, the pattern that I have also seen is that they have been consistently quoting interviews by Pakistani former and serving officials. And one of the interviews that caught my attention was the interview of Pakistani ambassador to Russia. And Russia is a friendly country to India. So imagine he's sitting in Russia, and he went as far as warning of nuclear escalation in an interview with Chinese media. And to quote him, he actually said that we will use all types of capabilities, including nuclear, if it comes to that. Then I don't really understand why India's narrative is not a part of Chinese discourse. Then we all know, but then I think if we go by what they are saying on English platforms, English channel, they also have to talk about India's narrative, which is nowhere to be found. And lurking beneath these comments is a bigger question that a lot of Chinese commentators are asking: that would China back Pakistan in a wider conflict between India and Pakistan? And of course, there is no indication of any direct involvement from Pakistan, but a lot of commentary is hinting towards Chinese support, specifically in the military domain, perhaps through more exports of its weapon, through more indirect assistance to Pakistan. That's definitely been discussed as a case for China's support for Pakistan. And then there is also a lot of condescending commentary, patronizing tone with respect to India and its military preparedness. Then many Chinese analysts also are painting India as a large, over budgeted, fragmented country when it comes to its defense capabilities. And then they also talk about, yes, India has 1.4 million active military personnel and over 6 lakh crore defense budget that has been assigned. But according to Chinese narrative, India's arsenal is a mix of mismatched Soviet era tanks, Western aircraft, and domestic platforms that just do not gel. This is a narrative that's being propagated on a number of Chinese platforms. But then they also say that, by contrast, Pakistan is shown as agile, cohesive, and more focused when they're trying to compare India's military capabilities with Pakistan. Then, how is Pakistan cohesive and focused? Of course, it's mostly Chinese weapons that they're talking about. They're not really talking about Pakistani's defense capabilities here. And then even India's new Rafales and T-90 tanks are framed as reactive, scrambling to recover from the humiliation, the shameful experience of the 2019 MiG-21 incident, when Pakistan, they say that, downed an Indian jet and captured its pilot. So this was also being discussed as the shameful experience and humiliating experience for India. And then one of the aspects that I have seen that is gaining a lot of attention is also China's role, of course, as I already mentioned, in the conflict. Then the main narrative is that the China has already backed Pakistan, first with J6 fighters in 1965, now with SH-15, and then J-10C jets, and then YJ missiles. And then in Chinese media, Operation Sindoor is about much more than India and Pakistan right now. And I do see that it is also becoming a proving ground for the Chinese, a real time demonstration of its own defense industry with Pakistani jets as a delivery system. So, in fact, some Chinese voices even admit that Pakistan, even though still has gaps, still has a lot of catching up to do, especially on the ground. But the overall message is clear: with Chinese help, Pakistan can close the gap, and Pakistan can actually come out as a victor. And what is largely missing from this narrative is, of course, India's side of the story. the civilian casualties, and the legitimate security concerns that India has been sounding for a very, very long time. And in this version of events, Pakistan is a winner, China is the enabler, and India is the aggressor. But then Operation Sindoor is just not about India's military operation strike on Pakistan or a retaliation or a response to terror attacks. It's now a narrative battlefield, one where Chinese platform amplify Pakistan's power and cast India as off balance. And this isn't just about Chinese influence in South Asia. This isn't just about South Asia. It's also a reflection of Beijing's larger goal to shift regional dynamics in its favor, using narrative, using its tech and strategic partnership with Pakistan. And this is a battlefield for Chinese weapon system versus India's own indigenous system with Western weapon system. And I don't think there's any doubt left that Pakistan is a proxy for China here. And it is now becoming a testing ground for China. As China has no combat experience in the recent time, it has no platform to test its own weapon system in real wartime scenario. So Pakistan is absolutely a proxy for China as of now. But I think from New Delhi's perspective, the message is loud and clear. China is not a neutral actor. It was never was and it will never be. So I think this is something that India also has to keep in mind when we avenge the lives of the innocent people that have been lost last month. It's just not Pakistan, it's also about China. So how do we deal with this two front threat that has been looming large over India for decades? And I think this hasn't really gone away. In fact, this is only becoming stronger and stronger. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.